20% of the world's oil supply stopped. 3 tankers hit in the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian forces opened fire without warning. Sailors are missing. Oil prices spiked $40 in a single hour. The global economy is holding its breath right now. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what weapons Iran used, why this attack was different from all previous ones, and what happens to the world if the strait closes permanently. This did not come from nowhere. Tensions in the Gulf have been building for years. Let us go back to where this started. In 2019, Iran began harassing tankers regularly. 6 vessels were attacked in 2 months. The IRGC Navy was testing boundaries. Nobody pushed back hard enough. Then came the 2020 shadow war. Drone strikes, proxy fights, quiet escalations, nobody reported fully. The Strait of Hormuz became a loaded weapon pointed at the world economy. By 2023, Iran had seized 2 commercial vessels. The Asterix Advantage Sweet Asterix was one. Armed IRGC commandos fast-roped onto the deck from helicopters. It was brazen, it was calculated. Fast forward to today, 3 tankers now sit damaged or sinking in the world's most critical waterway. The ships are the Asterix Pacific Diamond Asterix, the Asterix Nova Star Asterix, and the Asterix Meridian Horizon Asterix. All 3 were carrying crude oil bound for Asia. Combined, they carried over 4 million barrels of oil. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued no formal warning. No distress call was acknowledged in time. The attacks happened at night within 90 minutes of each other. Here's what makes this attack different from every previous one. This was not harassment. This was not a warning. This was a coordinated military strike designed to send one message to the entire world, and that message is this: Iran controls the strait now. What we are now learning reveals a level of planning that shocked Western intelligence. The first attack hit the Asterix Pacific Diamond Asterix at 2:14 a.m. local time. The vessel was a 300,000 ton VLCC, a very large crude carrier, one of the biggest ships on the water. Iran used a combination of surface attack boats and subsurface drone weapons. The IRGC's fast boat squadrons, operating in groups of 8, surrounded the tanker within minutes. These are Siraj-class speedboats armed with heavy machine guns and rocket-propelled grenade launchers, fast, lethal, and nearly invisible on radar at close range. Simultaneously, an underwater drone detonated against the hull below the waterline. Iran's Hoot torpedo variant caused catastrophic flooding. Within 40 minutes, the Asterix Pacific Diamond Asterix was listing at 30 degrees. The crew of 23 sent one distress signal, then silence. What happened next showed this was no isolated incident. The Asterix Nova Star Asterix was hit 47 minutes later. This time, Iran used something more sophisticated. A Shahed 136 loitering munition, the same drone used extensively in Ukraine, struck the bridge and communications array. No explosion, precise targeting. The crew was alive, but blind and deaf. The Asterix Meridian Horizon Asterix was the third target, struck at 3:41 a.m. This vessel carried 1.8 million barrels of Saudi crude oil. The IRGC used a land-based anti-ship missile fired from Iran's coastal defense batteries near Bandar Abbas. The Noor missile, Iran's reverse-engineered version of the Chinese C-802, covered 60 kilometers in under 4 minutes. The tanker's hull was breached on the port side. 3 ships, 3 different weapons, 3 different methods. That pattern tells intelligence analysts one very important thing. Iran rehearsed this operation many times before executing it. Here is what the Pentagon and U.S. Fifth Fleet did immediately. USS Asterix, Abraham Lincoln Asterix, Carrier Strike Group, stationed in the North Arabian Sea, began moving toward the Strait of Hormuz within 2 hours of the first attack. FA-18 Super Hornets were armed and on alert. 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, USS Asterix, Mason Asterix, and USS Asterix, Nitsey Asterix, accelerated to flank speed toward the strait. Britain's Royal Navy frigate HMS Asterix, Montrose Asterix, was already inside the Gulf. She moved to escort duties immediately. European and Japanese warships operating under combined maritime forces also went to heightened alert. Iran responded by deploying its Kilo-class submarine from Bandar Abbas. A submarine operating near a major maritime choke point is not a defensive move. Iran was escalating deliberately, every step measured, every move designed to show it would not back down. Meanwhile, oil futures in Asian markets exploded. Brent crude jumped $42 per barrel in after-hours trading. The Saudi Aramco emergency hotline activated. Kuwait, UAE, and Qatar all scrambled to reroute their outbound tanker traffic. Now here is the part that nobody in Washington wants to talk about. U.S. intelligence had signals of this attack coming. CENTCOM received a threat assessment 72 hours before the strikes. The assessment rated the probability of an IRGC naval action at 68%. The warning was classified at the secret level and distributed to 5th Fleet Command. Action was not taken. No additional escort vessels were positioned. No preemptive maritime advisory was issued to commercial shipping in the area. 3 ships were burning before a single protective measure deployed. That 68% warning now sits in a file folder that congressional oversight committees will fight over for months. The question is no longer whether Iran could close the Strait of Hormuz. The question is whether the world had every chance to stop this and chose to look away. What comes next may be far worse than what just happened. And we have the intelligence documents that prove it. Let us start with the most strategically dangerous weapon Iran used in this attack. The Noor missile is Iran's domestically produced anti-ship cruise missile. It is based on the Chinese C-802 design, which Iran acquired before US sanctions blocked further transfers. The Noor has a range of approximately 170 kilometers. It flies at near sea skimming altitude, sometimes as low as 5 meters above the water. At that height, radar systems on most commercial vessels cannot detect it in time to respond. Its speed reaches 0.9 Mach, just under the speed of sound. From launch to impact, a target 60 kilometers away has under 4 minutes. The destructive payload is a 165 kilogram high explosive warhead. Against a commercial tanker with no armor plating, that warhead does not just damage the ship, it creates a catastrophic breach that guarantees flooding. Now, here is the critical defense question. Can US Navy ships stop the Noor? The answer is the Phalanx close-in weapon system, which is standard on US destroyers, can intercept sea-skimming missiles. However, the success rate against simultaneous multiple launches drops significantly. If Iran fires 8 to 12 Noor missiles at once, which IRGC doctrine supports, the math gets very dangerous for any single defending vessel. One finding from a leaked 2022 Naval War College simulation, later partially confirmed in open source reporting, showed that a salvo of 10 simultaneous Noor launches would overwhelm a single Arleigh Burke-class destroyer's defenses with a 62% probability. That number should concern every naval commander in the region. The second weapon demands serious attention. The Shahed 136 is a one-way attack drone. Iran calls it a loitering munition. NATO calls it a kamikaze drone. The world learned its name in Ukraine, where Russia deployed it by the thousands. The Shahed 136 has a range of 2,000 kilometers. Its speed is approximately 185 kilometers per hour, much slower than a missile. That slow speed is actually part of its power. It is nearly invisible to thermal detection systems at altitude. Its tiny radar cross-section measures less than 0.01 square meters. Finding it on radar is like trying to spot a sparrow in a thunderstorm. The warhead carries approximately 40 kilograms of explosives. Against a commercial tanker's unarmored bridge structure, that is more than enough to destroy navigation systems, communications arrays, and command capability. The Asterix Novastar Asterix lost all bridge function within seconds of impact. Compared to a US Tomahawk cruise missile, which costs approximately $2 million per unit, the Shahed 136 costs Iran roughly $20,000 to produce. Iran can manufacture hundreds for the price of one American precision weapon. That cost asymmetry is a strategic advantage Iran exploits deliberately. The third strategy is not a single weapon, it is a doctrine. The IRGC Navy's fast boat swarm tactic has been studied and feared by Western naval planners since the 1980s tanker war. Modern versions use Siraj-class and Zulfiqar-class speedboats operating in coordinated swarms of 6 to 12 vessels. Each boat carries rocket-propelled grenades, heavy machine guns, and in some configurations, short-range anti-ship missiles. Individually, they are not powerful. Together, they are overwhelming. The swarm tactic forces a defending warship to engage multiple simultaneous threats from multiple directions. Against an unarmed tanker moving at 14 knots, a fast boat swarm is essentially unstoppable without dedicated naval escort. The Asterix Pacific Diamond Asterix had no escort. It had no defenses. It was a floating target. A classified annex to the 2021 U.S. Gulf Security Assessment, portions of which were referenced in congressional testimony, estimated that fully closing the Strait of Hormuz using combined swarm, missile, and drone tactics would require Iran only 48 to 72 hours of sustained operations. That window is smaller than most people realize. We are now at the decision point. The next 48 to 72 hours will define what happens next. Two scenarios are on the table. Only one leads to a world that looks like the one we know. The United States and Iran both understand the consequences of full conflict. Back-channel communications through Omani intermediaries, the same channel used in past crises, activate within 24 hours. Iran agrees to halt further attacks in exchange for suspension of specific sanctions targeting its oil exports. The 3 damaged tankers are the price paid. Insurance markets absorb the shock. Oil prices stabilize over 2 weeks. The Strait of Hormuz reopens to normal traffic within 72 hours. The world exhales. This scenario requires both sides to choose economics over pride. It has happened before, but that was before 3 ships burned. Now consider the other path, and this one demands your full attention. Iran does not stop. A second wave of attacks hits within 36 hours. The United States launches retaliatory airstrikes against IRGC naval facilities at Bandar Abbas. Iran responds by mining the strait with EM-52 rocket-propelled mines. Clearing those mines takes weeks. 20% of global oil supply stops moving. Oil hits $300 per barrel within days. Asian economies, almost entirely dependent on Gulf crude, begin rationing within 72 hours. Europe faces energy emergency declarations. Airline fuel costs double. Trucking costs triple. Supermarket shelves begin to feel the pressure within 2 weeks. Iran then activates Hezbollah and Houthi missile forces. Attacks spread to Saudi oil infrastructure. The Al-Qaeda processing facility, which handles 7% of global oil supply alone, becomes a primary target. If Al-Qaeda goes down, the world has never seen an oil shock of that magnitude. The clock on this scenario is running right now. Every hour without a diplomatic contact brings scenario 2 closer to reality. The Strait of Hormuz is not just a body of water, it is the jugular vein of the modern world. Here is the revelation that changes everything you just heard. Iran did not do this alone. Intelligence assessments, including signals, intercepts, referenced in recent European security briefings, point to coordination between Iranian planning and at least one external state actor. The timing, the weapon selection, the simultaneous 3-target structure. None of this matches previous IRGC operational patterns. This was a message, but it was not written only in Tehran. The world is now looking at a strait controlled by a nation that has demonstrated both the will and the capability to close it at any chosen moment. That is not a crisis. That is a permanent condition. Who won here? Iran demonstrated power that no previous strike achieved. It proved its weapons work. It proved its planning works. It proved the world's most important waterway is vulnerable. Who lost? Every nation that imports oil through the Strait of Hormuz. Every economy tied to a price of crude that is now permanently unstable. Every sailor on every tanker who now knows their ship is a target. But the deepest loss belongs to the idea that deterrence was working, because today deterrence failed. 3 ships burned, 20% of global oil stopped moving. And the world's most powerful navy arrived after the fires were already lit. The Strait of Hormuz did not close today, but the door to closing it just opened. Iran controls the strait today. But what happens when China decides to use that control for its own advantage? Our next video goes deep inside the secret naval agreement between Beijing and Tehran and what it means for US aircraft carriers operating in the Pacific. If Iran is the hand holding the knife, who is the mind directing it? Subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. This story is moving fast and the next video drops within 24 hours. Do not miss it.